Modern Railways. In-depth railway news.
Hello and welcome to the preview of the August 2022 edition of Modern Railways. As is the tradition, we have a Great Western base cover, but a bit different, as you can see. A proper engine, one of Porterbrook's better projects, a Class 57 or body snatcher in the trade. It's pretty hot as I'm recording this. Rails are starting to look bendy, more strikes have been announced, COVID is still driving up staff sickness levels, and I'm off on holiday. No, of course I'm not going on the train. Okay, first off, let's hear from the editor, Philip Sherratt, who has got so much on Great Western, I almost rebooked for the Cornish Riviera. Philip.
Thanks Ian, hello everyone, and good to be with you again for the preview of the August issue. Now, as is often the case in the summer months, we are looking at the Great Western as our regional focus this time, and there's always a lot going on the Great Western to talk about, and this is no exception. I have four features, and actually three of them feature decarbonisation, either as the main theme or part within them. First up, we've spoken to Great Western Railway MD Mark Cockwood, as we usually do, and he's got lots to say about rebuilding passenger numbers and the changed focus of demand, but also about decarbonisation plans and looking ahead to what Great Western can do on a network which has still got a lot of diesel trains on it. And allied with that, many of you will be familiar with the traction decarbonisation network strategy that Network Rail produced a couple of years ago. Well, now some of the regions are doing their own regional decarbonisation strategies, and we've got hold of the one for Wales and Western. For the Western part, which is what we report on, they're recommending 6 tranches to achieve decarbonisation based on selections of routes done in stages. First of all is completing the Great Western electrification, the bits that didn't get done, that were cut from the scope, and then it goes on from there, so you can read about what's recommended. And then the third element of decarbonisation on Great Western is the trial of a battery train on the Greenford branch. This is Viva Rail's battery train, which was at the COP26 conference in the autumn. So we've had a chat with Viva Rail about what they're doing, and they're installing the fast charge equipment at West Ealing. So we talk about the technology, what they think it can do, and its potential extendability to other places. Our fourth feature on Great Western is about freight in the southwest, in Devon and Cornwall. That's an excuse for some jolly good pigs. Aside from that, we have our Rail Innovation Special this time. This is principally connected with the winners of our Innovation Awards, which we held recently, but also some other features about innovation developments in the rail industry. And we also have in this issue, for subscribers only, our HS2 special, where we have a feature from a very interesting visit I did recently to the site at Kingsbury, where they'll be making parts for the viaducts which will make up the Delta Junction. If you're not a subscriber, unfortunately you won't get that, but do subscribe in time for the next one, which will come out with the November issue in a few months' time, so there's plenty of time to get in for that. There's lots going on news-wise at the moment. Obviously strikes continue to be a headline feature, but we also have some interesting reports on some good investments going on. We've had a recent announcement of £1 billion for the East Coast Digital Programme to put ETCS on the East Coast Main Line at the South End. So we've got some detail on that. And I had an interesting visit recently to look at work on the Trans-Pennine Route upgrade, which is starting to really kick into action. And it's good to be able to report on positive investment there. It's a multi-billion-pound programme, and the first overhead wires are going up at the East End, and there's good work going on at the West End at the Manchester side as well, but lots also still in development. So we cover detail on that. There's plenty more going on beside. You'll see from the cover that there's a new livery on LNER's Intercity 225, the opening of the Barking Riverside extension on the London Overground. And we're also plugging the tickets for our rail tour in September with Cross Country, which is part of our 60th anniversary celebrations and a celebration of 40 years of HST on Cross Country's north-east to south-west route. Some of you will have seen the reliveried power car that they did in executive livery, which looks splendid. I've had lots of great pictures of that, and you'll be able to see some of those in the magazine. But there's an opportunity to buy tickets for our rail tour and a competition to win a couple of exclusive first-class tickets as well. And we're also gearing up in big style for our Modern Railways Expo show in November, so look out for more coverage about that. There's details in the magazine, and we'll be feeding lots of stuff out online and on social media. So a lot going on, and a very busy time for us, but a bumper 116-page August issue, which I hope you'll enjoy. So now I'll hand back over to Ian.
Thank you, Philip. 116 pages. And is it really 40 years since HST started on cross country? For me, that is a holiday memory. Off to Torquay with the kids, 4 seats around a window, gliding along the coast. I mean, that's nostalgia, isn't it? Everything seems better than yeah, okay, well, we'll move on to Roger. Roger's Informed Sources. Now then, is the Great British Railways Bill going to be consulted on, or isn't it? What's the latest, Roger?
Well, hello again, and welcome to this preview of Informed Sources in the August Modern Railways. No sooner had the editor and I interviewed Transport Secretary Grant Shapps, where he told us that there would be no consultation on the legislation creating Great British Railways, then a document came into my in-tray, consultation on the legislation. It contains a lot more information on what's going to be involved in creating Great British Railways, and of course, as you've noticed from my recent items, information is in short supply. So I go through it, and I've divided it up into 6 easy chunks to assimilate, because just run as a solid narrative would have been a bit daunting. It covers things like franchising and how that affects the devolved nations, Wales and Scotland. It also looks at how DfT, the degree of control DfT will maintain over Great British Railways. For instance, it will appoint the board, set salaries and so on. Then there's bits on access, where of course there's some concern among the open access operators, like Hull Trains, about what's going to happen. Then there's fares and retailing. A bit on the periodic review by which the Office of Rail and Road sets Network Rail's income for the next 5 years. And incidentally, it's mixed news for ORR. They get a bit more independence, but at the same time, they have to take a bit more notice of DfT's views when it comes to open access. And published alongside the legislation document consultation was an impact assessment of the costs and benefits of creating GBR. This contains more information, supplementing that in the consultation document, and we know that it's going to cost about 318 million, and there are some figures for the benefits they expect, which I have a bit of fun with. The second item is a report on a meeting held by Network Rail to talk to the potential suppliers for the Midland Main Line electrification extension to Nottingham and Sheffield. This was very interesting. It gives the starting point in terms of cost and how they hope to get it down, because, as they said at the meeting, Midland Main Line is the template for decarbonisation. All eyes are going to be on this project, because if it doesn't get costs down significantly, it's going to be very difficult to justify further electrification. But they are really thoroughly assessing what they're going to do. It may seem a bit slow. The contracts won't be placed until early in 2024. But at the same time, if they get it right, the future looks good for electrification. So I think it's worthwhile spending that extra time getting it right in terms of contracts, how it's going to be let and so on. So that's the column for August. I hope you enjoy it, even though some of it may be a bit hard going, and look forward to seeing you again next month.
Thank you, Roger. Whew, right, so Pan Up this month is mainly about Liverpool, who I'm sure you know are in the rather lengthy process of buying new trains. This isn't the usual story of production delays, but the effects of COVID on testing, and of course the old issue of door controls. The door control has been agreed, but there is still a lot of work to do. They'll be coming in on one line at a time. Probably Kirby will be the first line, since it's easiest and it goes past the depot at Kirkdale. I've had a really good look around the trains, not just the inside, but underneath and on top, and they look really good. Well built and cleverly designed. There are only a couple of details I don't like, but on the whole, it's great to be able to be positive about a new train. These trains are going to transform rail travel in Merseyrail, and I can't wait to get a ride on one. Now, last month, Tony Miles wrote about the new extension to Headbolt Lane. Well, It's an extension, but it's moving the buffer stops 1 kilometre nearer Wigan. But Tony quotes Mal Drury-Rose as saying that the economics of independently powered EMUs is getting better and better. Well, I wasn't so sure about that, so I thought I'd do a spreadsheet. Now, since the RR have an effective ban on extending third rail electrification, it's very convenient if it turns out that this is economically a good thing as well. Well, what do you think? 1 kilometre of third rail, or carrying around 8 tonnes of kit on every fitted unit for 30 years? No, don't work it out now, have a look at the spreadsheet. I separated this bit out because train operators don't want to take on the ORR since they need them to approve things. Certainly nobody can afford to install electrification only for the ORR not to approve it. Now, I'd like to give you my full opinion on the ORR. What on there? Okay, right, continuing in less controversial mode, I've returned to the subject of remote comms. No, stay with me. I'm not describing the systems. We all know you can report just about anything remotely if you want to. The interesting thing, at least I think, is that a competitive market is appearing for processing the data and getting something useful out of it. In my depot days, I wasn't keen on remote reporting. If something was out there working, I was quite happy with that. But then old EMUs were a bit of a different story. I may be a bit out of date there. Wabtec are the new entrants, based on yet another Derby office with a big wall of TV screens to look at. Lots of red on the 769s, by the way, but I'm told that was just their wheel diameters. Okay, still, we take a good close look at that when we get the new edition. So that's it for this month. When you watch this, I will either be somewhere in the Atlantic on a cruise ship or sitting in my back garden looking at a positive COVID test. I suppose if that happens, at least I'll get to read the next edition sooner. Okay, bye everybody.
Visit www.modernrailways.com for more interesting and essential information about the British Railway Network.